Now, this is a game that does not get talked about enough these days. The original Viewtiful Joe has honestly almost become a little bit obscure in recent times, because I don't really hear a lot of people bring this title up as one of the best titles on GameCube, and I myself haven't really played it since apparently 2014, so coming back to it and playing it again after such a long hiatus, after beating the game on adult difficulty, and experiencing basically everything the game had to offer, I actually had legit just picked the game off the shelf at random when looking for games to stream, and I thought that it might be fun to go through it again, and it was more than fun. It was a blast. For the most part, this is some of the most fun I've had with a game on stream in a while. Like, I was really surprised with how much I like the game. In fact, I would say this game is probably one of my all-time, I don't want to say one of my all-time favorite, but like, it's a really good beat-em up that I don't hear a lot of people talk enough about. I think I like it quite a bit more than River City Ransom or Streets of Rage or River City Girls or whatever else anyone's talking about these days. Like Viewtiful Joe is an absolute treat to go through with its stylish designs, unique concept, unimitatable gameplay. This is one of those Hideki Kamiya games. Unlike something like Bayonetta, it's a lot like the Wonderful 101. Like, this really is the original Wonderful 101, a simplified, basic version of it, in which your character has a number of unique abilities that you don't really see in any other action game ever. Like, I must have played this game when I was a little bit too young to appreciate it, because I've never played another beat-em-up game with dodging mechanics like this. Like, it seems really simplistic at where you just, like, press up to, like, just do a sort of up dodge, like, dodge trips like that, and then, like, you can duck attacks, but doing it in actual gameplay, like, dodging all these enemies, like, wailing on them, doing all this stuff. When I last played it, I came away with the impression that the combat was a little bit too basic and a little bit too simplistic. And in a lot of ways, that is true. In a lot of ways, this feels like a very early Platinum title, because the combat is there, the basic structure is there, but unlike Bayonetta, The Wonderful 101, and some of these other later Platinum games, this game feels very barren in a lot of ways. The combat, although very fun and very satisfying, is also somewhat repetitive in a lot of ways. If the game was any longer, you would probably get sick of it. In a lot of ways, I feel as if the Wonderful 101 was a big improvement over how it structured the game, how it handled the scoring system, how it handled like its inner complexities, and how you always feel like you're getting better at it. In a lot of ways, Viewtiful Joe doesn't quite hit the same mark in that respect. But on the other hand, because it's not as complex as the Wonderful 101 or Bayonetta, I feel like it's a lot more accessible in general. Like, I think it's probably a lot more reasonable to expect a kid to be able to get through this really relatively short, like 4, 5, 6 hour long game, as opposed to something like the Wonderful 101. In a lot of ways, Wonderful 101 seems like a bigger budget version, a bigger budget version of this. But this is the original. This is the OG. This is how Platinum got started with its action games. This is Hideki Kamiya at his most original, I think. Kind of where he defined his own signature style, as opposed to making shit like Devil May Cry, which was originally supposed to be a Resident Evil game, and Resident Evil 2. Like, this is the game that kind of defined him as a really as a director to watch, essentially. And it has a really important part of history because of that. Like, without this game, we probably wouldn't have Bayonetta, we probably wouldn't have the Wonderful 101. like, and those are two of my favorite games of all time. Like, I would argue that The Wonderful 101 is better than this. I would argue Bayonetta is better than this, but at the same time, coming back to it after such a long break, like, I really do think that in a lot of ways, this game is something very, very special that does not get talked up enough. And one of the things I don't think that I really appreciated enough as a kid is the story and gameplay. The character of Joe himself. Like, as a kid, you're just sort of like watching this asshole like just do stuff, and it's like, okay, whatever. Like, I didn't like Joe all that much as a kid, but as an adult, like as someone who's become a fan, like become almost exactly like him in a lot of ways. Like, I end up like really liking and enjoying the character a lot more. I kind of relate to like his sort of personality and like the way he treats his girlfriend Sylvia, and just like everything that happens in this game. But his love of old action heroes, like the character has become charming in a lot of ways as I've gotten older. Like, this is a game in a lot of ways that was made for adults, but it was sort of ahead of its time in the way it designed its characters and presented itself. Because when I was very young, when I first played this, I thought it was made for kids, but it's so much more than that at the same time. I highly recommend I'd highly recommend anyone, if they have the opportunity, to go ahead and check this one out. This is a game that has stood the test of time and has gone on to become a Nintendo classic.